You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens on another Saturday night. Boy, I'm so glad we have so many people coming in on our telephone line. Well, also we've got we're going live on Facebook as well, and we're also on YouTube. So my goodness, we're looking forward to all of you folks coming in tonight. So by all means, stay with us. We have a number of programs coming up here tonight on the Six Screens. But we have got Anne Marie. She's a former Jehovah's Witness. And boy, does she have a lot to say about the Watchtower. She has a program on here every other Saturday night at 5:45. It's called Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. And she'll be exposing the Watchtower tonight. And we'll have people calling in as well and giving Anne Marie their thoughts on how they've been touched and how they've been hurt by an evil organization. Now, tonight, she's going to be talking about when you were a Jehovah's Witness. How did you feel? And even more so, how do you feel now that you're out of the witnesses? Did you get attention when you were a witness? Are you getting attention now that you're out? Well, she's going to talk all about that tonight. So she's here with us. Hello, Anne Marie.
Hello, my brother Rick. Happy Six Screen Saturday. How's everything going?
Well, we got a good day going here, Anne Marie. Really cool up here in Boston. Boy, I have to tell you, in fact, Susan's been kind of chilly here all day long. It's only about 60. Well, it was early this morning was like 58 out there. So real cool day, but it's going to warm up a little tomorrow. So how are you doing out there in Northern California?
Kind of the same thing. We had a little bit of a heat wave for a few days, and then today it's just been actually quite chilly. And yeah, the girls were complaining, it's cold, and I'm like, oh, righty then. But we never know what we're going to get in these days of messing around with the climate.
Well, that certainly could be the case. We'll have to ask Reese about that tonight when he comes on. But anyways, you're going to be talking about, just so I have this right, tell the folks what you're going to be talking about tonight.
Well, I not only have my experience of being in the Watchtower and how I was coming out, and I recognize certain traits in my emotional makeup that I am not happy about. But I am cognizant, and I've noticed with other people, the stories they tell, the way they tell, the way they tell their sad stories, and it just seems like this is a trend that so many of us seem to be needing approval, almost like we're a child looking. I'm not trying to be rude, but in a childish, deep level, it's almost like we didn't get that approval to where we only now need our own approval. I'm not saying everybody, but I just notice a pattern that it's a very common thing, and I think it's because Watchtower really beat us down so much, and we were always looking outside ourselves for validation, for approval. But I'm noticing that it still seems to be the case in a lot of ex-witnesses who have left the Watchtower. Sometimes even 10, 20, 30 years later, they still have that issue. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on.
Well, that sounds pretty good. So I'm going to step in the background, but I'm here if you need me. And you go ahead with the program, and we'll be checking in with you later. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you, my brother Rick. Well, I want to welcome everyone in. It is once again Six Screen Saturday. Today is June 18th, 2022. And sometimes I wish I could get into a bubble time machine or something and show up in a Kingdom Hall in 1969 or 1974 and say, guess what? Thinking ahead, dudes, you know what? You guys are still going to be preaching the good news in 2022, and they're still going to be telling you that Armageddon is just around the corner. And it's just a shame to look back and to see how we were deceived. But we weren't just deceived and lied to. We weren't just tricked. We weren't just manipulated using our sincere desire to be pleasing to God, to have the feeling that we were, being approved by Jehovah God, and realized that we were just basically manipulated, used, abused, tricked, deceived, and it was all done with such a coldness. And basically, it was all because it was a big, big, big business. It's like all of the apartment buildings and the office buildings and tons of property that this organization has bought with cash. All of the stock market shares they have, even in questionable stock like Boeing, that makes not only airliners, but they make bombers and they make bombs, and that's okay. And being invested in cigarette companies, I mean, really? So I just kind of wanted to kind of put it out there if anybody would like to share their personal thoughts or reflections on their own state of their own emotions or needs. One thing I have noticed more than anything is so many ex-members seem to crave attention, and I almost want to say that some border on being needy, emotionally needy. Some people say they have a terrible time making friends. I have heard this so much, and I think it's because the problem is that when you are needy, when you are trying to latch on to somebody, some people will be nice, they'll listen to your sad story, but if you're that kind of person that is needy, they're going to want to pull away from you. They'll be nice to you for a while, but then they're going to be making excuses to get away from you. And if you get that experience enough, you're going to feel, how come I can't make friends? Why does everybody turn their back on me? Boo, 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 boo. And we're not really sometimes understanding the root cause or the core of the problem. One moment. So I kind of noticed it in myself in the beginning when I left, but I kind of threw myself into trying to figure out how to live like a normal person, and I really didn't know what that was like. So I was kind of like a baby trying to learn to walk. I knew I was going to fall and get bruised and banged up, but I just was determined to really try. And I remember being part of a very small private dinner party, and I was so aware that I was, I guess, emotionally or socially stunted, I think is the word. I had no social skills, and I didn't even know in the Watchtower I didn't have any skills. I'm sitting at the dinner table, and everybody's having polite social conversation, and I honestly had no idea what they were talking about. I was amazed and acutely aware that everybody was speaking with intelligence. Everybody understood everyone else. And I felt like a fish out of water. And I remember trying so hard to think of something to say that would not give away just how really ignorant I was. I'm 31 years old, and I felt like a child sitting at this dinner party, like I just didn't know what to do or say or how to act. And I remember coming up with some simple remark, comment to what somebody was saying. And the lady who was next to me, obviously a very intelligent lady, she turned to me and she was very kind, but she was also very forthright. And she looked at me and she said, Anne Marie, you don't seem like you're a stupid person, but you kind of are, aren't you? I never forgot that. No, she said, you don't seem like a stupid person, but you kind of are, aren't you? And I remember feeling such shame because I knew she wasn't being unkind. She wasn't trying to be mean at all. She was just being very forthright. And I remember vowing to myself that somehow, some way, I was going to figure this thing out. And so anyway, I was just wondering, does anybody else have any connection of what I'm saying? The need for attention, the need for approval, the need for validation, feeling sometimes like you're lacking in social skills, maybe feeling like you don't feel like you know how to make friends. I mean, one brother brought out that, they're all fake friends. I mean, did we really have a tower? Because you find out real quick that the friends you thought were your friends, you could drop dead in front of them and they wouldn't care. Hello, go ahead, dear.
Oh, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt. This is Thomas Hawkins, Lawrence, Kansas.
Go ahead, Thomas. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, really nice talk with you, Anne Marie. I appreciate your program tonight, as always. My thing is, man, I know I have that problem. What I deal with is I feel like I've got to have somebody's approval. I don't want to offend anybody. I feel apologetic, and I just go out of my way to, try to really make sure that I don't, I'm not unkind to somebody. It just seems like I go overboard with some of those things. I know a lot of that's from the Watchtower. It has to be, because we're always so afraid it was going to offend somebody or step on the brothers or sisters' toes, when we were in that organization.
You are so correct, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up to the subject, and I appreciate your bringing that up, Thomas. I remember two sisters were so concerned about me when I was still in the Watchtower that they came to see me at my house. In fact, that's the only time I remember anybody really coming purely out of kindness. And they were saying they were concerned because I was always apologizing. I mean, literally always apologizing, because I thought every person that said anything to me in the Watchtower, it was from Jehovah. It didn't matter if they were criticizing me or asking me why I did something or telling me I should do something or do it this way and not that way. I always thought it was direction from Jehovah, and I had to take it seriously. And, I'd be told, you're not humble enough, you're too humble. You And anyway, I would always say, I'm sorry, because I was trying so hard to figure out how I was supposed to be, what the right way was. So I appreciate, Thomas, that you brought up being apologetic, and also worrying about offending, because one time, I'm sorry, does somebody want to chime in? Because I have another little story. Please, anybody want to share? Okay, I'll just share this one little thing about what Thomas brought up, worrying about offending somebody. There was this very sweet sister, Ruth, and she was married to an elder, and it was sad because this poor woman wanted children so badly, and her husband absolutely was against it. He couldn't stand kids. And she came to my house. She was actually quite sweet, kind of shy. And she came to my house, and I don't know what we were talking about, but for some reason, my defense mechanism toward my children kicked in. I guess because people were always saying things about my kids, and they were the absolute best behaved kids. Absolutely. And I was just saying how much I love my children, how good they were, how proud I was of them, that I consider them a blessing. Because I was told nobody's ever going to want to marry you and all your burdens and, just stuff like that. They would say negative things to me about my children. So I was a little defensive, and I don't know what started that. And all of a sudden, this sister, tears started coming down her face. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's crying. And I'm saying, are you okay? And she goes, I cried, I'm okay. And I'm like, okay. Next thing I know, guess what? She went to her elder husband. He had a fit because I had made his wife cry. And who did I think I was? He went to the elders and told them they better talk to me, because if he talked to me, there was going to be a really big problem. And this is all because, is it my fault the woman can't have kids? I don't know. But this is the way it is. You're going to offend somebody. I offended one elder's wife because she was so happy she came back from Disneyland, and we were talking before the meeting, and she was so proud of these little Mickey Mouse earrings that she had bought. And she says, oh, they're so cute. Don't you just love them? And I said, personally, no, they're just not my thing. And she goes, well, too bad. And she went and told her husband that I had offended her, that I offended her and I was rude. So thank you, Thomas, for bringing that up. The feeling of, always, wondering, you don't want to offend anybody and apologizing. Anybody have any thoughts? I'm only talking because we can't have dead air, but anybody is welcome to just jump in, star 6, floor is open.
Hello, Anne-Marie.
Hey, who's it?
Hi, honey. This is Constance. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you?
I'm still a little foggy, honey, so you probably didn't recognize my voice. But hi, honey. I just wanted to chime in. I wanted to say just a couple of things briefly so others can call in too. But I was going to say that, it's very true. The JWs, they don't have the social skills. So, honey, when you mentioned about that sister getting really puffy about the, Disneyland, the little earrings that she had, Mickey Mouse, it's very interesting because emotionally she was so immature, and the thing is, not everybody's going to like the same things that you like, but there's so much of a need among Watchtowerites to just have everybody's approval. And, that's all just part of the culture, especially being a woman growing up in that cult. And the other thing, honey, I wanted to say was, my former client, she and I are still friends. We reconnected. She's back in the psych ward now, which is really sad. But anyway, she's like 55. She's born and raised a JW and then left for 20 years when she was 19 and got married. And then, her husband and her were married for 20 years and then they divorced. And now she's back in the cult and she's awake. She's really a PMO. But the point I wanted to make is that, oh my gosh, Anne-Marie, she's 55. And she has absolutely no social skills as far as making new friends. Everyone is a JW, but what's so sad in her congregation, everyone in her congregation are in their 70s and 80s. So, and she's 55. So, she doesn't really have a lot of friends her age. Nobody comes by to visit her or anything like that or socialize with her. And she's just a really lovely person. I mean, she really is. But, she has absolutely no skills in how to make, new friends outside of Watchtower. So, that's all part of the culture. That is definitely part of the culture. And you're absolutely right, honey. When you leave the organization, you do feel like a fish out of water. But, a person is able to develop those skills and to make new friends. But, really excellent points, Anne-Marie. So thank you, honey. And thank you for allowing me to come on and say hello.
Oh, Constance, I'm so glad you did. And I'll be really glad when I know you're totally healthy. Because you scared me. I really pick up on that. I think a lot of the issue, let's just say a symptom of the issue, is when one realizes they can't make friends. They don't know how to make friends. Because I don't think we learned the skill of having personal boundaries. Emotionally, I don't think that we were able to really be mature as an adult, because when you're just kept down, you're told not to think for yourself, and if you do think for yourself, one, that makes you a independent thinker, which means you're like Satan. And the other thing is you're being disrespectful to the faithful slave, and then you're being arrogant, and, no matter what, it's a bad thing, thinking for yourself and having an opinion that doesn't meet the approval of the Watchtower is a bad thing. That means you're bad. Sorry. This is why I preach therapy. I preach therapy up one end and down the other. And it is hard sometimes to find a therapist. And a lot of people will say, well, I can't find anybody to help me, recover from being in a cult. Well, a lot of therapists don't understand about being in a cult, but you can still learn life skills. You can still learn to recognize that you are not behaving in a healthy manner, because water seeks its own level. You know, if you're a woman and you're attracting men that are charming at first, but then they end up being mean and controlling and abusive and expecting you to be a slave to them, well, there's a pattern there. It's not the men, it's you, because you're attracting what down deep, you know, your skill set is. That's what you're attracting. I was shocked. I used to think that all men were abusive and drunkards and swore and smoked. And when I finally got healthy, I didn't even realize, well, I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I'm healthy. But I did notice something when I realized I was with a man who was a great guy. And then I met this other great guy and this other great guy. And at one point, I was actually seeing 4 or 5. And the reason why I kind of let them go is because, you know, they start kind of talking about permanent, you know, like marriage. And, you know, I didn't want to be with the wrong person. But I sat back and realized, wait a minute, all of these guys had nothing in common with each other, but they were kind, they were respectful, they were kind to me, they were hardworking, they were responsible, they were good guys. I'm like, wow, you know, I didn't know. And I realized what it was is I had changed. You know, I had really taken a long, hard look at myself, and it took a lot of years because I kept looking outside myself to find out who I was, what's wrong with me, what's right with me, what I should do, what I should not do. And one day it occurred to me that I was just getting more and more confused because I watch all these talk shows, I'd read all these psychological books, you know, and I tried therapy here and there, and I told one person how great my mom was, and she looked at me and she said, you're in denial. Well, if you're not going to respect my truth, I'm not going to see you. So I was kind of floundering on my own for a while. And one day it occurred to me, you know, there has to be a first step. And I thought, what could that first step be in basically healing myself, getting myself to grow, to get healthy mentally and emotionally? And I realized for myself that the first step was simply to pay attention to myself. You know, a lot of times people would ask me to do this and do that for them. I always said yes. And then I would wait to feel like maybe they appreciated me, and they never did. Everybody always expected me to help them, you know, help them in their house, or help them with this or that, or, oh, I have my electricity's going to be shut off. Can you help me? You know, I'm barely surviving. I have 5 kids, and believe me, more than one person actually came to me and asked me to pay their bills, and I did. You know, I let my bills go and paid their bill, and I slowly caught up. So that's how I did things. But mostly it was watch my kids. Could you watch my kids? And there was one lady had me watching her kids every day, and they were little brats, and I couldn't stand them. So she could pioneer, and then she gets up on the stage, and she's being praised for pioneering, you know. And I'm thinking, what about the lady who made it possible? I don't ever get any thank yous. But anyway, I realized for me the first step was to simply be aware of how did I feel about this and that. Anything that upset me, instead of like boo-hoo, you know, I don't feel appreciated, nobody, you know, how come I don't get the respect that other people do? And then one day I just thought, I'm going to look at any situation and ask myself, what exactly happened? How did I feel? How did I respond? Could I have said something, or could have I felt different? Could I have responded differently? And slowly, and I do mean very slowly, it suddenly came to me after slowly, you know, going through all this. One day I had an aha moment and realized I didn't have to say yes. I could say no. I actually could say no, and hell wouldn't freeze over. And I could actually say no and not hold my breath cringing that somebody was going to say that I was a bitch, or go behind my back and say that Anne-Marie, this and that, who does she think she is? Because that's what I got a lot of, believe it or not. And one day I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to start doing what feels right to me. And I was scared to death But little by little, it's funny. I feel so relaxed and happy now because it's not that I don't care. I find it amusing when people say, well, I don't care what people think. And I'm thinking, well, you should care because you want people to care what you think. So I do care. I don't care if somebody hates my guts, calls me names in my face. I'm going to listen and I'm going to hear where they're coming from because I have absolute respect for not only a person's right to their opinion and their feelings, but I respect their right to express it and their right to be listened and to be heard. And overall, I have a really good balance now, and I've set my boundaries to what I will accept and what I won't, what I will take, what I will not take. And if somebody crosses that, I will let them know that's not okay. I'm not going to put them down because I'm taking responsibility for myself. And I really think that is a good basis. I'm a nuts and bolts person, so that for me made a lot of sense. It has helped me. We're always going to have whatever issues we have, but I personally choose not to give any energy to anything negative. If I start feeling guilty, I'm like, wait a minute, did I really do something wrong? And if I did, I'm going to own up to it. I'm going to say, you know what, I shouldn't have said what I said. I shouldn't have blah, blah, blah. I want you to know I realized I was wrong. I regret that. And I am sorry. And I move on. I don't dwell on it or whatever. And I don't dwell on something that somebody did to me. Although I have my boo-hoo moments. Yes, I do. But I put a time limit on it. If I need to just vent or get mad or boo-hoo over something really sad that hurt me deeply and it's come up, I will let myself, I hate that saying, but feel my feelings. I feel like barfing every time I hear it. Oh, you need to feel your feelings. But it's true. We do need to allow ourselves to feel our feelings. But I say don't get lost in the well of despair. Don't fall into the sewer and get so used to being down there that you think that's your life and that's normal, because it's not. Give yourself a time limit. If you need to cry or vent or rage or pound a pillow or a wall, give yourself a time limit. Myself, personally, usually it's 3 or 4 minutes. I have needed up to 15 minutes. But then I say, okay, enough of that. I got that from my father, that enough of that. And you can always go back and boo-hoo and cry and get mad at another time. But you don't want to stay in a negative, not good place. You don't want to stay there. And I personally, for myself, have learned that whatever I give energy to, it grows. I hear people saying, oh, there's so many rude people out there. They'll stab you in the back every time they steal. They lie in your face. They're all hypocrites. Personally, that's not my experience. Everywhere I go, people smile at me. Everywhere I go, people are nice. They are nice. So I personally think that maybe it's because, whatever you put out there comes back to you. So even though we all had we didn't have the best time in Watchtower. Some of us had a better time than others. If you happen to be in a congregation where everybody was loving and maybe you were well connected, well, that's great. But overall, Watchtower is not a good place to be because it is a controlling, tyrannical cult. And the bottom line is you toe the party line or you are an enemy and you are going to pay. So we know we have a lot of bad stories, a lot of sad stories, a lot of really crazy and upsetting stories that we have heard over the years. But bottom line is we don't want to stay there. We don't want to stay there. I truly didn't mean to go on. Does anybody have anything to say? Please hit star 6 and share your thoughts.
Hello, Anne-Marie. Go ahead, Constance.
Let the gentleman. Hi.
That's okay, Rich. Go ahead, Rich.
Just a thought. One of the reasons that Jehovah's Witnesses don't have social skills is they're kind of limited as to what they can talk about. Most people talk about society today, politics, and things like that. You can't do that as a JW. And another thing is they don't really like you to be involved in sports. You might watch the World Series, but they don't want you watching the Red Sox every single, throughout the whole season of the Celtics or, anything like that. So you really can't talk about that. So you're quite limited. But I agree with one thing that you were saying, Anne-Marie. Matter of fact, I agree with everything you said. But getting therapy, well, I tell you, it makes a difference. And I would suggest to anyone that's having problems, get yourself a good Christian psychologist or psychiatrist. They're terrific. Okay, thank you.
Anne-Marie?
I'm right here.
Hello?
Thank you, Dick. Hi. Go ahead,
Hi.
dear.
Is there two of us trying to talk now?
Yes, you may, of course.
Okay,
Constance was going to share her thoughts, so let Constance in when you're done, okay? Go ahead, dear.
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. This is Debbie. You know what you said about saying you're sorry all the time? I spent the better part after I moved to where I am now, telling my daughters, I'm sorry, because we are night and day different from each other. And now my cat's gonna start meowing. But like, I'm Christian, she's pagan. I love people, she hates people. I forgive, she never does. And it was just like every day I spent the whole day, apologizing to her. I mean, she's been my caregiver. Molly, be quiet. I'm sorry about my but she's my caregiver, and she's a very angry person, and I've got to a point that I'm not angry, and I'm trying to just repair our relationship, and it doesn't matter what I do, she gets angry. So I end up saying I'm sorry. But then recently I thought, you know what? I don't have to keep apologizing to her. You know, I don't have to tell her I don't have to pretend I'm not a Christian to make her happy, you know. And it seems like the more time I spend like in church and with the Bible and things, the angrier she gets, to the point that recently I told her she needs to quit, or she needs to straighten her attitude up, or she needs to just quit this job, because I told her when she walks through the door, negativity, the air changes, literally, you know.
No,
And I had already wasted so many years of my life trying to make my parents happy all the time. And I remember when my mom was dying, I kept just wanting her to say, I love you once. Because that's something I never heard from her. And here I had been taking care of her, you know, for weeks at a time. And I kept telling her before she died, I kept saying, Mom, I love you. I love you. And I just kept waiting for that. Well, I never got it. So then one day it dawned on me, you know, I just have to give myself that, you know, because I know I did everything I could to make them happy. And if she's not going to be happy, well, she's gone now. So I'm never going to get that, you know. So And recently I decided, no matter what, I'm going to do what makes me feel good in my own home. Like I stopped her from watching TV shows, about vampires and witches and all that kind of stuff, because I don't like that kind of stuff. And she thinks I'm stupid for not letting her watch it. She thinks I'm just being ridiculous because, of course, her being pagan, she doesn't believe in the Bible. But I understand.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand at the same time why, because of how she was treated by the witnesses. And finally, she got into a church that she was really happy with. And then people there used her and stabbed her in the back. Well, that's all she needed to seal her hatred for Christians.
Yeah.
And one time I said, Tina, maybe if you would stop resenting everybody for everything and practice forgiveness, you would feel better, because, that saying, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And I told her that. I said, that's why you're so unhappy, because you will not let go of anything that you're angry about. She said, well, I don't have to let go of it. But, it's really sad that I quit apologizing for my beliefs. And I just thought, she's not going to get me everlasting life, ever. We all have to stand on our own, on Judgment Day. We don't have, nobody's going to get that for us. We have to do it ourselves. And so I thought, I got to stop waiting on making everybody else happy and do what I know is the right thing to do. So, but I get what you were saying about. There for a while, I thought all I say is I'm sorry, and that was it. I was done.
Well, good for you. So you've learned the importance of self-care and bringing up the example of your poor daughter. Nobody's denying that she's had, terrible experiences, but, even the Bible says something about when you hold on to anger and bitterness, that it's rottenness to the bones, that it really poisons you. And I'm really glad that you shared that with your daughter, because you can do anything you can to try to help her, to try to reach her, advise her, whatever. But, just from what you said, if she chooses to hold on to her resentment and her bitterness and what this one did and what that one did, she's not only going to be horribly miserable all the time, but blaming everybody else and what everybody else did is not going to help. Everybody has their sad, terrible stories, but do you want to stay in that story, or do you want to deal with it, say, what happened, and, step outside of it? It's like, I tell people the story like, this is how I feel about personal issues. I'm walking down the street and I hear somebody crying up ahead, but I can't see where it's coming from. But as I continue walking, I find that there is somebody down in the sewer in the mess of manure and filth and everything, and they're crying, and I'm like, what are you doing down there? I feel so bad for this person as they tell me their sad story about how they got thrown in there and they've been trapped there forever and blah, 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 and it's so awful. They can't stand the smell. They hate being dirty. And I listen to their sad story, and I'm giving a metaphorical story here. And then I'm like, well, now that I've heard your story, we understand how you got there, why you're there, how much you hate it, how unhappy you are. Let me help you out. Let's get you cleaned up, get you some hot water and soap and clean clothes. Oh, no, I don't need that. I just need you to understand what happened to me. I just need you to listen to me. I'm so sad. You know, I'm the kind of person to say, well, obviously you just want to stay in your sad story and I'll keep on walking because that's just the way I am. Because you know what? We all have it. I could have stayed down there too. You could have stayed down there. We've all, of course, like nobody's been through what you've been through, Debbie. But the thing is, we do have choices. We can sit in the corner and continue to cry, or we can say, does this serve me? Do I want to be happy? Well, if you want to be happy, you can't be happy by letting your soul and every cell of your body and your spirit, your mind and your heart and your emotions to be continually recycling the filth that you say you wish never happened, that hurt you. Well, if it hurt you so much, why are you there? It's like standing in the fire crying about how bad it hurts to be burned, but you won't get out of it. What is that? Anyway, Constance wanted to share something before we were talking.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I hope I'm on star 6. Can you hear me, honey? I think you can.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Clear as a bell.
Okay. Okay, honey. Anyway, I was going to say I love, what Debbie had to say, and of course what you're saying as well, Anne Marie. You know, what I wanted to say is that victim role. Okay, let's just be real here. You know, we all have had a lot of anger, rage, and even bitterness when it comes to how Watchtower did us so wrong. You know, primarily the women. I mean, come on, let's just be real. When you're a woman in that culture, you know, you're treated like total dirt. But what I wanted to say is, you know, when a person is in that victim role, okay, you disempower yourself. In other words, woe is me, feel sorry for me, you know, the crap has hit the fan and my life is over. Look how many years I've spent with Watchtower and I've missed out on my education and didn't have a family. And, you know, we know the whole drill. We know it. We've lived it. But the point is, you're absolutely right, Anne Marie. You got to get to a point where you pick yourself up and you dust yourself off and you say, okay, that's enough. That is enough. I am done with done. It is time to take my power back, and I am going to empower my life, and I'm going to move forward. I mean, I love this illustration that I've heard. When you're driving in a car, you know, you've got the front window because you're always looking to see what's ahead of you when you're on the road. And then the rear view mirror is very small. And there's a reason for that because, you know, you got to keep your eyes on what's ahead of you. If you keep looking in the rear view mirror and focusing on that as you're driving, you will get in an accident because your focus is in the wrong direction. And, you know, we've all been burnt by Watchtower. But, you know, and the anger and the rage and the bitterness is very real. But the thing I'd like to say is your mind, your body, and your spirit are all connected. Whether you know it or not, they are. And Emily, that scripture you brought out about the dry bones, yeah, dry bones. What are dry bones? That's somebody who's dead. When you're dead, your bones are dry. There's no life in it. So the point is that people need to move forward. I mean, I know I'm not going to say anything. There's this one brother I absolutely love. I mean, I love everybody on here. But, you know, it's very difficult for him to move forward. And he was in the organization for so many years. And I've said, you know what? You need to move forward. Otherwise, all these years that you've been out of the organization and continue to be out, you know, it's going to rent space in your head for the rest of your life. And you might as well be back in the organization because you haven't healed. You know, you got to move forward. And the thing is, how you do it is you deal with the issues. Yeah, you do deal with the anger. Yeah, you have to. And you can't be putting the blame on other people. Because when you do that, then you're not taking any power of your life to say, okay, I've had enough. I'm taking my life, I'm taking my power back, and I am moving forward. Okay? Because otherwise, you might as well, like you say, Emery, be back in the gutter with all the mire and everything. So you work on the anger, you work on the rage and the bitterness. Otherwise, you know what? This is the honest truth. You will come down with cancer. Oh, yes, you will. That's not an if. You will. You will. Your body's building up all that toxicity. Yeah, you will come down with cancer. Yes, you will. So I made a choice. I said, no way in hell am I going to be going down that road. I'm going to deal with the anger. And then you have to also deal with learning to love yourself in a healthy way, friends. I'm not talking about kissing yourself in the mirror, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about loving yourself in a very healthy way. And I'm also talking about learning to have self-respect. Okay? I was a witness for 12 years. And you know what? I didn't respect myself. I didn't. And I was doing everything absolutely right. But that's because that organization is very tyrannical and oppressive. So you have to get to a point where, for me, it was going back to college and getting my degree. And that really helped to empower me with my self-confidence. And you can do it too. You can. But you have to set boundaries too, Debbie. Okay, that's your home. I know she's your daughter, but, you know, you've got to set boundaries, love. And when there's the anger, I'll say this, Anne-Marie, and then I'll hush. You know, Debbie, your daughter is really pissed off with Watchtower. Yeah, we get that. But you don't need to apologize. The thing I would recommend for you, love, would be to just set boundaries. It is your home. I know she's your caregiver, but it is your home. And number two is just love on her. You don't have to shove Christianity down a person's throat. Love will move mountains like you can't believe. Mm-hmm. It will. Yeah, I'm serious about that, love. You don't have to be preaching. Just show her the love. Yeah. So thank you, ladies. Thank you.
You know, I was going to say what you said about the mind, body, spirit. They're all connected. They're all one, basically, because you can't have something with one without it affecting something else. And my daughter's health is going downhill so fast. I've already been there and brought my health back up, you know, and she's just like, she wants to move. She's miserable here, and she wants to get out of here. Well, I can't afford to move. And I said, you know, with interest rates and things, we might all just be stuck right now. She says, oh, I'm not stuck. I'll get a backpack, and I'll take the car, drive as far as I can, go up a mountain, get out, and just live on land. And I said, and you're going to do that in a tent on top of the Rocky Mountains in the winter. Well, right now well, we're not in Colorado. We're in Nebraska, but we're over right next to Colorado. It's like 5 hours to Denver from where we live. And she wants to move. She's always wanted to move to Colorado. Well, I know all my life I wanted to move to Colorado too. But it's not reasonable. And right now I'd rather move to the Smoky Mountains because it's beautiful in a different way. And I love trees. And she loves trees. She does find beauty in things. I mean, she is a fantastic, and I tell her all her good qualities. And I know I got my feelings hurt by her once because for Christmas last year, I didn't have the money to really buy her anything, and I wrote her a poem because I'm really good at writing poems and stories, but I'm an emotional person. I let my feelings be known. She doesn't. She keeps everything in, and all the things that she blames me for are things she's doing, not me. And she never admits she's wrong, so I just don't argue about that. I let it go, you know. And because I spent too many years in a bad relationship with her. And so at times when she's not expecting anything, I might just give her a card. And it might say something like, I thought about you today, and it brightened mine. And like yesterday, just out of the blue, I had bought her a present and gave it to her. And she was really surprised because what is this for? I said, just because I appreciate everything you do. And I gave her a card that said that too. And she's like, why do you do stuff like that? Just give people stuff for no reason. And I'm like, well, I can't always give anything on certain days, like Christmas and birthdays. So when I get an opportunity and I have a little bit of money, which I never had, but I've been trying to set aside something.
Debbie, can we wrap this up? Because I don't know if anybody else wants to comment. If
I'm done.
Debbie,
I'm done. That's okay.
Debbie, I'm not asking you to be sorry. I'm just saying, I don't know how long you're going to continue, and it's almost an hour. So I just wanted to ask you if we could invite, if anybody had a comment on what you're saying, what Constance said, and if nobody wants to comment, because I don't want somebody waiting and you're still talking, we don't know. But please don't apologize. I'm not trying to tell you to stop talking. I just want to ask you, are you going to wrap this up? Are you going to keep going on? I don't know. So I'm just asking you because that's my thought.
No, that's fine.
So,
I'm not always aware of the time.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's not about time. Don't worry about it. I think what you're saying, I'm hearing you dealing, amazingly well. Trying to do it this way, writing a poem, writing, a card. That's great. I just want to invite anybody, if anybody's out there that wants to comment, please do while we are still here. If not, Debbie will continue to share. Then that's fine. I just want everybody to feel like they have a voice as well. Does anybody out there want to comment at all?
Could I mention something?
Please, go ahead. Oh, I'm sure Debbie would appreciate it.
Okay. Well, it has to do with what Debbie was saying. And, when we lead Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it's by disfellowshipping or our own design, we feel like a victimhood. And you know what? We are, really. At that time, we are a victim. We're a victim of the Watchtower. But as time goes on, we shouldn't really be claiming victimhood. We should move out of that into another level, of getting out of the Watchtower. Because you have to move. If you stay in the angry state, I know this is what happened to me, maybe not others. But sometimes when you get really angry, it energizes you. Have you ever been angry and then, like, when people get angry, they punch the wall or punch somebody? Because you have all this excess energy in you. Sometimes anger energizes you, and that's why you like being angry. It just energizes you and keeps you going. But that's no way to live. It isn't. And you don't have to be a victim. You can take steps to get out of it. And Debbie mentioned some good things. And also, I think she's very wise. And, when you become a Christian, and if you want to promote Christianity, sometimes it's better to be a sermon than to give one. And that's oftentimes what Jesus has done and what we should think about. Because if we don't act like we preach, then no one's going to listen to you. So that's just an aside there regarding that. And I know when I first got out of the Watchtower and was experiencing my difficulties, I know you and many others, I had phone friends, and they were the ones that helped me through. And when I needed to, you talked to me, even if it was only for 5 minutes. So I appreciate that very much. It's good to find other like-minded people in your situation. You can prop each other up, and you don't feel so out of touch and so lonely. When you join the organization, you have instant friends. But people have to be friends with you. They're told to be friends with you. When you left, they're told to be your enemies. You have no one. And since you don't have the social skills to really have a lot of friends, it's very difficult. In fact, the Watchtower doesn't teach you to have social skills. They don't want you to have social skills because they don't want you outside of the congregation. They want you married to everyone that's in the Kingdom Hall. So they make it very difficult. But it can be done, and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands have left, and successfully.
That is so true. I really appreciate that. I always, when I think of you, Susan, I still hear you saying how it was mandatory that the family attend the yearly Super Bowl game. When you said it was mandatory and your sister-in-law wants you to clean her house, I remember hearing you say that. I would have said, "You crazy ass lady, you know what? Clean your own damn house." But I was actually like you. I would have felt like I had to clean her house. That's the way we were made to feel like we were supposed to. But then again, you're a lot nicer than I am. I think I would have said something.
Well, in the Watchtower, we were taught to be accommodating and think of group needs rather than our own needs. And now that we're out,
hello and welcome to our program.
We don't have anybody else to think about, just yourself. So,
Right.
you know, it's a good time to get to know yourself.
That's a good point, hon. When you said it's a good time to get to know yourself, I forgot what sister it was. I think the last show that we had, the one where I had all these issues, the last show. I think it was Christine and Denise. Those two, if I remember their names correctly, oh my goodness, they were just bringing up stuff that I was like, oh my God, they're right. I had never thought about it. Like your entire identity and every single role you played, whether you were an employee, a wife, a mother, a daughter, whatever, a customer, it was always Watchtower way. You were a Watchtower wife, a Watchtower mother, a Watchtower employee. Your entire identity in every facet of your life was tied up with the Watchtower, way. I always felt like I had to be on, like I had to, like the angels and Jehovah were all watching me. I mean, every movement, every facial expression, the tone of my voice, every word I uttered, I was always feeling like I was on, like I was being watched. And any moment I could be, disgracing Jehovah. I was so acutely of every detail of, oh my God. I remember I accidentally bumped some lady's bumper when I had just been baptized. And I remember calling the elders and just crying because I thought it was going to be disfellowship.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That's not so funny, really. You could have been. You don't know.
It is not. I mean, I literally would not allow myself, I didn't read a magazine or a book unless it was from the Watchtower. And I remember when George Benson's album, Breathing, came out in 77, I think it was. And I loved the music so much. And I bought the album and I was so afraid that Jehovah was disapproving of me. And I said, oh, but Jehovah, it's so beautiful. I hope don't be mad at me. Because I bought Breathing. And it turned out he was a brother.
Yeah.
I know.
You mentioned a good point about, being on all the time. That switch that on switch is on all the time. You never get to turn it off. Your antenna's always up. You've always got to be ready. And, it's kind of a nervous, it affects your nerves. It does. Because you have to be on all the time.
Ladies,
Yeah, that's
hello?
true. Go ahead,
Hi.
yes. Please.
Oh,
Hi.
hi. Hello. Hugs for all of you ladies. My goodness, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that the guy, the real dear friend of mine who brought me into the organization when I was 19, I'm 52 now, I finally got to get him to call me back. And this is so funny because he couldn't have called at a better time. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years because the last time we talked, he said, you're going to die in Armageddon. The reason why you got this brain injury is because you were basically not being obedient to Jehovah. And he dismissed me. And now I'm recovered fully from my brain injury. And I called him out of love because I love him still. And I left him a big, long message that said something like, hey there, this is so-and-so. I met you when I was 19. And I was going to one church, and you were studying with the witnesses. I just wanted to tell you that I miss you, my friend, and I really laid it on thick in this. I mean, it was like, I hope this message finds you blessed. I hope this message finds you happy. And I meant every second of it. And you know, I got a call back from him, and I really believe that it is definitely from God, because he called me back, and the timing was impeccable. I was at a really, oh, ladies, this is really, oh my, please, if you, I was in the thick of it. Everything you guys were describing about being in victim mode, about being in people pleasing mode, saying I'm sorry 1,000 times a day, feeling ashamed for being honest, all of those things. So look, this is really cute. I'm so sorry. I just cannot wait to tell you. I'm serious. I'm not apologizing to you guys. You see, I still have it. Still apologizing. Okay. So he called me in the middle of a charity golf tournament where there was music and laughter, and you could hear people in the background. And he says, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you at a party? I'll call you back later." I says, no. Let me step out. I'm at a charity golf tournament, and I love you, my friend. I'm so glad you called me. And you know what was really sad, you guys, ladies, excuse me. He said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm at a golf tournament. Jehovah's been really good to me. By the way, I've healed from the brain injury. You know, God never leaves you in the lurch." And here I am talking to a judgmental Jehovah's Witness, the way I used to be also, thinking everybody was going to die in Armageddon but us. And he doesn't realize that they are set up to gaslight people. So this is how our conversation went. "Are you sure you're okay?" And I went, "Well, yes, I am. I'm actually really happy. And I'm blessed. And I'm recovered from the brain injury." Well, I never mentioned, "Hey, you left me in the lurch, dear one. You said basically I was demonized." I mean, gee, but I didn't bring that up because I'm a forgiving person, and I don't want to rot with cancer. And so, anyways, he said that, and so he says, and so he says to me, "Now this is a 30-something-year-old relationship." And I told him, I said, "Do you know that I love you so much that I don't want to let you go, my friend?" And so I had to walk a really fine line of not being too much of a traitor, because I know that in his brainwashed head, he thinks that if I say one triggering word, he's going to tell on me. And so, and he doesn't want to turn me in. So he says, you know what he said to me was so beautiful, ladies?
What?
"I have hope for this man. I am praying for him to come out of the Watchtower. He's going to be on the show with us." He says, "Oh, do you know what I want to know what I used to tell him when I was reading the Watchtower?" And I secretly would call him and go, "Hey, I'm reading the Watchtower, and I have something to say. Well, what if I told you that I believe that the people in the meeting are the Pharisees?" And he goes, "Oh, don't ever say that. Don't ever repeat that." And he goes, and I says, "But I'm having stomach issues. I can't go anymore. I've got diarrhea. I can't get off the toilet. I'm going to end up wearing a diaper in the meetings." And he says, "You need to wear a diaper." And you know what he used to tell me? He is in such fear of the Watchtower. He told me it might be just me and him that makes it through Armageddon. That's how brainwashed he is.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So he told me he was putting on a T-shirt that day that he received my message, that there was a T-shirt back dating in 2000, a very special event where I was making a connection with the witnesses, and I was studying much heavier with them. And he equated that T-shirt with me. And he says, "You know, this is really impeccable timing. I put this T-shirt on, and I thought of you, and then I saw you left me a message. So please, ladies, if you'll keep him in your thoughts and prayers if you pray. I would love to have him on the show someday."
Wow, that is so powerful.
Oh, goodness.
Is it okay?
Thank you.
I don't. I usually pray with a name. Is it okay to use a name, or is it just
Not,
How should I? Huh?
well,
Can we
I
know a
can't
first
say his
name,
name.
please?
I cannot say his name, and the reason being is
Oh, that's
obviously
okay.
I'm not. I am still reaching out to the witnesses in my community, and I feel very
Okay.
strongly that I am not to make a statement yet about
Okay.
about coming out of the closet, because the reason being is I'm still reaching these witnesses where I live, and because I'm thinking that if I just kind of tread lightly for the sake of them, not me, that I might be able to get other people to defect, you know, and just come to the blessed side of life where we have freedom. And I know not everybody's a believer on this show. I wasn't either until 2 years ago. I've been out of the witnesses for at least 10 years, but there is freedom in Christ Jesus. There's no intermediator.
No.
Yeah. So
No,
I'm wanting to.
So we'll just pray, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad you shared that. And personally, when people say it was a coincidence, I thought about that, and one day I realized, wait a minute, I believe in coincidences, because if you think about it, what is the root word of coincidence? It's coincide. And remember the scripture, I forgot where it is, but it said God makes everything work out good for those who love him. You know, it's like Randall Waters said. He said, you know, we don't know a person's time, but when the time is right, whatever they need to hear, whatever person needs to reach out to them, for instance, you, whatever it is, it will happen. And, you know, God knows what he's doing. I believe that the angels and the universe and the Lord, Holy Spirit, it's like, to me, it's like an intricate tapestry. And we're all connected. We are all connected. So, you know, I only ask for name because it helps me. But if that's not a good thing, then you know what?
Not
the
yet.
Lord knows who we're talking about.
Thank you. Not yet. It is with not. I have no fear of coming out of the closet. I just want to reach out to the witnesses still. And this particular witness I've known since I was 19. I did not have any family in the area. I had moved. I was a single mom. He's black and I am white, and he was 25, my senior, and he shared with me the book of Revelations. He loved me so much. He convinced me to become a Jehovah's Witness, got baptized, everything. He was at my baptism. And he did share with me one thing that I'll never forget. When his best friend in the organization did jail time for being a witness, it was back in the war. I'm not sure, would it be the Korean War or another war, where he would not join. Exactly. And this brother went to jail for it. Okay. So it was his best friend, and yes, and they were going to the same hall together. And when that brother died, the witnesses were awful. They all the years that witnessed his best friend, which I got to know, was a beautiful, tender-hearted man. He kept complaining to me, and he never complained because I just couldn't believe how awful they were trying to set up the memorial for this brother. And so anyways, he told me one day he never gets depressed because he's older than me. He would hide his depression. I know he's depressed because he said, do you know that because I was probably the only one he brought into the organization. He said that when he gets up in the morning, he feels like living, because he said that he tried to tell me in so many words that he was getting beat up in there. And so when I pulled out the thing that I said, listen, I'm getting abused in there. I told him I'm getting my hair pulled out at the meeting. I'm getting cussed at. I'm getting, it was weird. Sisters telling me they were going to punch me in the car. And I'm like, this is weird. And he told me, he didn't deny it. He says, you just need to keep going and serve Jehovah and be obedient, because it may be just you and I that are there during Armageddon that survive. And I said, oh my goodness, do you ever think about what you're saying? And he says, if you keep talking like this, you're going to get disfellowship. I need you to be quiet. So in his mind, how sad, he's trying to protect
his little witness friend, and he's trying to
Yeah.
make me a behaved witness. And the poor guy is just, he's probably tormented every time I try to call him. He's thinking, this little witness she's got a brain injury because she's demonized. No, people have brain injuries. People, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean oh my goodness. I told him, I said, things happen. People get sick. People have accidents. I said, they heal from accidents. I'm healed. I'm blessed. And it's like, I'm so sorry, but I'm like, I felt so bad on the other end. I felt like if I could just shake you and just get you out of this.
Really?
I want to rescue him. Like, I want to rescue him out of there. Like, help me to say the right words, God. Please help me.
Well, it sounds like you're on the right track. So why were these witnesses so mean to his friend?
His friend, and this is just my opinion, was very meek and very mild-tempered. And I just believe that he wasn't a favorite in the hall. And I don't know about the halls you guys were in, but every hall had a unique, personality, and some were really nice, and some were abusive that I've been to. And so his hall was very dark too. Like mine was not. Mine was abusive, but it wasn't dark. There was insider abuse, and but his was like very prison-like. I went to lots of his meetings where he lived, and it just felt very, I don't know, they wore their suits extra, I don't know, it felt like I don't know how to describe it, but, but like my hall, there was a couple, one brother in particular, he was a felon, an ex-felon, and he was a ministerial servant, and he was, had a mommy issues, and he would tell everybody that he couldn't stand his own mother, and so he was allowed to abuse witnesses as they would allow him to abuse them, and I was one of them. And so he would pull one strand out at a time in the car group and the car, and he would call me names and just give me dirty looks, and I just really felt like they allowed this brother, like they have their little minions in there. So like if you show too much joy, or you start to look rebellious with, because joy is rebellion in there. You know that, ladies. If you have joy and if you have personality, you will be stifled. You will be oppressed, and they do it very subtly. One of the ways that they did it that was very harsh on me, and it's so minor, but it's kind of funny. When I would experience joy in the witness hall, because I really thought I was, doing the work for Jehovah. Oh my goodness. Oh, yikes. Okay, so, and our sisters did have a lot of fun in there, I have to admit. The brothers would, this one brother, he was the presiding overseer, used to put a stack of magazines, and you know how important our magazines were, especially the school, the Theocratic Ministry School. He would like walk up to me like he was going to give me a magazine, and he would say, "Nope, not for you," and he would walk away from me. And I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And I'm thinking, "Am I in trouble?" And so it was little things like that they would do to make me always like if I started getting too joyful. They like to have you a little bit worried, a little bit anxious. When I also too went to college and finished late in life. I took a psychology course, part of our curriculum, and I learned about psychology of the dynamics of a group setting called control, or the milieu, the control of the milieu, the group. There's always well, of course we know it's a cult now, but they have their tactics, and they press them on you, and they do it, and it's like a very subtle forms of abuse that you don't recognize. and then you accept it, and then it breaks you down basically, so that you can conform.
Yeah, especially when they do it in such a way where they make it's like gaslighting, where you're being abused subtly, mentally, and emotionally. And if you have any kind of reaction, they'll look at you like, something's wrong with you. And it really makes you feel like something's wrong with you. You deserve it. You're not being humble enough. They're trying to correct you through love. You should listen and not be rebellious. You have a bad attitude. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Hey, Anne-Marie,
Absolutely.
this is Rick. Anne-Marie, can you hear me? Sorry to cut in here. What we're going to do,
Yeah,
Anne-Marie.
I know we're over time.
Well, no, what we have to do is we're going to just we're going to be ending the YouTube, and you can finish up the conversation on the radio network. Take about 5 minutes, but you can finish the conversation. We are ending YouTube. I just want to mention to the people on YouTube, if you want to listen in to the rest of Anne-Marie's program, you can go to 6screensofthewatchtower.com, scroll down to where it says video suite, click on that, and you can listen in the suite, or you can dial in a telephone number. So Anne-Marie will end the YouTube right now. She will be on the radio telephone line, and JW World News.
May I thank everybody that was on? May I do that, Rick?
Yes, go ahead. Yep.
I just want to thank these people for participating. I want to thank Debbie, Constance, Dick, Thomas, and Heather for speaking up, and Susan for speaking up and sharing. It was really a great program. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
All right. Anne-Marie will be on the radio. You guys just stay on and keep talking to her. We're going to end YouTube, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes with JW World News.